Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So this story has been recently brought to my attention, but it's been around for a couple of weeks now. And it's about this idea that the outdoors is racist and black people don't have access to the outdoors apparently. We can't go for a hike, we can't go for a walk, we can't go out and enjoy the beauty of nature because of racism. So North Face has offered an hour-long course on racial inclusion, and they've offered to give a 20% discount for any customers who complete the course. An hour-long course. And apparently the term white privilege is used throughout the course. So in the UK, they had this whole thing about the British countryside being racist and people saying that they're uncomfortable to venture out, into the countryside because of racism, or people saying that, they know stories of people who have experienced racism in remote parts of the country, in small towns, in rural areas.
The British countryside has been declared a racist and colonial white space. That's according to wildlife charities. So the Wildlife and Countryside Link, an umbrella group whose members include the RSPCA, the WWF and National Trust, has presented a report to Parliament which claims the perception that green spaces are dominated by white people can prevent people from ethnic minority backgrounds from using green spaces.
It can end up being it can feel quite exclusive. The reason why is because these individuals share the same culture, same values, which includes food, language, music, etiquette, manners, hobbies, etc. So when someone new comes along, that's different. They can end up standing out like a sore thumb. They can end up not potentially fitting in. And then they also have to contend with the racial prejudice that kind of lies within that area.
So it says in that article that the worst racism she's endured has been in urban areas.
Precisely, yeah.
They're just race baiting. They're clickbaiting, they're race baiting. It's complete rubbish. And when we kind of dig deep and you see what was your definition of racism, it's that people looked and stared.
Here in the US, we had that book that was released about white rural America and how racist it is.
I am a little skeptical. Let's start with the title. Rage. Would upset, frustration, anger have been fair? How'd you get to rage?
Well, it's really white rural resentment, which is a known, measurable, quantifiable term in the social science literature among sociologists and political science. It's been measured by people like Catherine Kramer in her book, The Politics of Resentment, about rural voters in Wisconsin.
So there seems to be this whole push to put out the message that, if you're not white, you can't enjoy the outdoors. You can't venture outside of your comfort zone, get away from the city, go somewhere more remote and, enjoy the outdoors. Apparently, if you're black, that's going to be a lot harder for you to do. Not because of economic reasons and the fact that people can't afford North Face, especially now. No, not because of that, but because of racism. Because of racism of the past. Apparently, even things that have happened in the past, the history is preventing people from enjoying the outdoors.
North Face, known best for its warm, cozy jackets, is offering an hour-long racial equity course in an effort to make outdoor activities less racially oppressive. They're going to throw in a 20% coupon on their merch if you sign up, noting that white privilege can give you access to the outdoors when others can be excluded because of historic, enduring racism and biases.
Systemic action is around the long-term vision of making the outdoors more accessible for everyone, including people of color.
It's so beautiful because it's just breaking all the norms and barriers and everything, and it's showing you can do anything with hijab, without hijab.
Going outdoors and being black outdoors and being visibly black and being like, this is stuff that we do, like almost changing the perception or makeup of what a climber looks like.
Now, anybody who does hiking, outdoors activities of any kind, people who are adventurous, they know that this is nonsense. But what gets me is people who are actually thinking, especially with the summer coming up now, people who are actually considering doing something different. Stories like this, initiatives like this, is going to deter them. I mean, they're thinking they're going to be ended up in some sort of deliverance situation if they go outside of their city. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is the message that it puts out there. And I don't think companies like North Face actually care about black people and black people enjoying the outdoors. I don't think they care. I think they're just pushing their DEI Not for customers, but for the powers that be, for their big donors, their backers. They're pushing their agendas and their virtue signaling. Oh, look at us, we can use terms such as white privilege, people of colour. Many of us are still boycotting North Face after their whole, partnering with a drag queen who looks like a clown and basically shoving all of this nonsense down people's throats. That happened a couple of years ago. People are still boycotting them from that. I know I am.
Atlanta, GA. Why? Because you're there.
So yes, they're pushing this idea that the countryside is racist, because this is North Face in the UK. The countryside is racist, small towns are racist, and you should just stay in the city because you can't go anywhere, apparently, if you're black.
Harvey, I'm going to come to you on this one first. I mean, racist trees. Should we be worried?
No. Look, I just want to answer the question very clearly. No, the British countryside is not racist. And actually, stories like this make me really angry, actually, Dawn, because racial disparities are a very serious issue for people that suffer from them. There are racial disparities in healthcare, employment, in criminal justice outcomes. When we're talking about stupid stories like, is the countryside racist? Is it a white colonial space that black people are excluded from? When anyone can get on a train or a coach and go to the countryside. In fact, I drove to the countryside last weekend. I went to the Cotswolds. I had a lovely time. I didn't suffer from any racism. When that is something which people can literally do and go and experience the beautiful British countryside for themselves, stories like this make me really angry because black people will be put off going to the countryside by reading things like this and by hearing things like this, which just aren't true.
It's got nothing to do with race. Absolutely nothing to do with race. Now, it could be a socio-economic thing, absolutely. But ultimately, regardless of your race, whatever you prioritise, you can do to one degree or another. If it's a priority of yours to enjoy the outdoors, there's nothing stopping you, least of all racism. Equipment comes in all different ranges, in all different price ranges. You can get equipment on eBay, you can go to Walmart, or you could buy North Face, which is among the most expensive when it comes to buying gear. Instead of talking about how we can make the outdoors more accessible to people in terms of being able to afford equipment, the clothing that you need, the shoes that you need, instead of talking about that, they're making it all about race, when this could affect anybody regardless of your race. And the biggest threat to somebody new venturing out into the outdoors is being unprepared. It's not racism. It's not somebody's skin color. Not having what you need in case the weather turns, not having food, not having GPS or a map, not knowing what you're doing. That is the biggest threat. And they should be focusing more on that rather than making everything about racism. So people who took the course, mainly out of curiosity, not because they believe any of this nonsense, they are saying that, yeah, terminology such as white privilege, saying that if you're black, you don't have access to the outdoors, saying if you're white, you automatically have the access you need to everything in life ever, is what is very, very annoying. The only thing stopping you from going outside and enjoying the outdoors is yourself. It's not racism. No one cares.
20% coupon for watching that. Well, I love saving money, but there's only so many things I'm willing to do for a coupon. Spending an hour to hear how racist the climbing world is? Hard pass. Joining me now, Xavier Doroso, PragerU personality and former BLM activist. All right, Xavier, you actually took this so-called racial equity course. So will you now feel less oppressed when you head to the mountains?
Honestly, I would have enjoyed sitting at the DMV for an hour more than taking that course. The course is really just insulting to my intelligence, and it talks a lot about affordability of these outdoor activities as if white people don't have to pay the same expenses. They really want to convince you that white people are getting a Caucasian discount every time they go to Bass Pro Shop so that they can do more outdoor activities. And what makes it even more insulting is that it says that when a white person, let's say, can't afford to go jet skiing or hiking or any of these other outdoor activities, they say it's not racially based when it's a white person, but for some reason it is when it's a person of color. But trust me, there's no gatekeeping when it comes to the outdoors. The sun does not oppress people of color. If anything, we're fortunate that we're not out there getting sunburnt. But of course, these woke corporations are so determined to come up with the creative ways to make people of color think that we are perpetual victims.
Well, a spokesman for VF, which owns North Face, told Fox Digital the company has always believed the outdoors should be a welcoming, equitable, and safe place for all. This course aims to bring light to the barriers to entry, preventing all people from sharing equally rewarding experiences in the outdoors. Xavier, do you think the Obamas, which have a beautiful place on Martha's Vineyard and one in Hawaii, I mean, I think it's up to them really to begin this racial equity in the outdoors, bring a whole bunch of underprivileged kids to enjoy those beautiful multi-million-dollar houses and go, wakeboarding and water skiing and all the things that you can do in the outdoors to be less racist.
They might as well take a busload of illegal immigrants out skiing with them and enjoy the outdoors, since they're people of color too. But of course, the Obamas are going to spend a lot of time outside because they can afford it. It has nothing to do with race. If you can't afford to do something, then you have more options to do that. I don't understand why that's not common sense.
Yeah, the biggest barrier is expense. And that affects anybody in inner city, low socioeconomic communities. That affects anybody regardless of race. And North Face, they're not ones to talk about that. However, when you prioritize things, you find ways to afford what it is you want to do, whatever it is you're prioritizing, whether you save up, whether you budget. There are ways to do this. Whether you go on eBay and buy gently used versions, you're always going to be able to find more affordable versions of what it is you want. But ultimately, going to a park that has some trails or driving somewhere that's a little more remote and going for a walk doesn't cost much at all. Everybody can do that to some degree. There's always somewhere where you can go for a walk and enjoy the outdoors. You just have to look for it. And racism certainly is probably the last thing you have to worry about. It really is. Safety is the most important thing, absolutely. Being prepared for a change in the weather, being prepared in terms of telling people where you're going, what time you're expected back. That sort of thing is more important. I don't want this to deter people, because that's what this does. It deters people. It makes people think, oh, I'm going to stay in the city with all the pollution and not go anywhere. And that's a real shame.
But again, they want to try to make us think that a person of color is being stressed out by being outside because a white person is there. Well, trust me, if I'm a black man, if I'm out in the wilderness, the last concern of mine is what a random white person is thinking about me, because odds are they are minding their business, as I should be too. And more often than not, the people who enjoy these outdoor activities, they're there to get away from all of this woke nonsense. They don't want to be around that either.
Absolutely. People who enjoy the outdoors, they're cool people. They really are. No one's looking at you. No one cares. When you're out on the outdoors, that's where people say hi to you every 5 minutes when you're on a hike or wherever. People who walk by always say hi. Go back to the city, that doesn't happen. People don't make eye contact. People don't say hi. People are just going. But when you're enjoying the outdoors, people say hi. People make eye contact. People smile. They're generally cool people. They're not a bunch of racists. People who have these ideas that the countryside is racist, they don't go to the countryside. They don't. They don't go to small towns, go to a small village, have a cup of tea, go for a nice hike. They don't do that. Not on a regular basis anyway. They rarely do it. Because if they did, they would know that all of this is a load of nonsense. They would know that this is an absolute lie. If anything, it would do people good to get out there and enjoy the outdoors. In remote areas, in small towns, rural areas, especially children. And it's such a shame that we're now trying to paint, these areas as racist.
How do I get to the top of the mountain? Okay, and I'm trying to not fall down the side. I'm not thinking about politics or race or anything, and I think that's probably where most people are. All right, since you took the course yourself, I want to test your retention of knowledge.
Oh, wow.
Okay, here's one of the questions. A black girl goes along to her first snowboarding lesson, and the other participants are fascinated with her hair and ask if they can touch it. What level of racism would you describe this as? A, internalized, B, structural, C, interpersonal, or D, institutional?
That
Xavier?
is C, interpersonal, because it's considered a microaggression.
Right. Okay.
You cannot be serious. You cannot be serious.
You have retained your knowledge. Okay, that's right. This is effectively cheating for you, okay? I think we have one more question. Let's do one more question. We have one more question that you saw on this test. Okay, here it is. Now, you are aware that there are no people of color signing up to your climbing lessons, despite living in an area where there is a racially diverse population. What would you do? A, raise it with the climbing manager. B, invite local organized groups to join. C, reach out to people of color and ask them to bring it up. Or D, do nothing. Xavier?
I think it's both A and B.
Oh, okay. You know something? I'm giving you an A for the racial equity course, okay? Even if you didn't get any others correct, just because you have the right attitude here. Xavier, thank you so much. Great to see you.
Can you imagine sitting there doing that for an hour, those questions? That's absolutely horrendous. I promise you, nobody's going to want to touch your hair when you go for a hike or when you go snowboarding. You know, people just need to be informed about these activities and told about them, and their eyes will be opened. There's a lot more that they can do, you know, for fun outside of the city. And they need to be informed about safety, precautions that you need to take, how to prepare, what equipment you need. That would have been a much more beneficial course than making everything about race. And let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.